All right, guys, first things first, I'm gonna get the truck jacked up and put on a jack stand. We got her on a nice 3-ton jack stand. So once I get the tire out of the way, I'll bring that jack back in, and I like to just put a little bit of pressure in a second spot because I'm cautious like that. Anyway, so got the 24 millimeter here, got my DeWalt Impact, not sponsored, and I'm about to buzz this this tire off, and let's get started. Let's set the lug nuts aside. Okay, so we got the tire off, and then I went ahead and I put the jack back under that mounting point. So I got a little bit of redundancy. Now we're gonna take the wheel well out, and these are 5/16. My truck only has about 4 of them, so I don't know what your truck has. This one off and the one closest to the turbo, and this pipe will pull right out. Next thing's next, we're gonna get this air filter box out of the way, and all right, and keep that because that goes back in your radiator shroud there. We are gonna unplug this intake air temperature sensor. The sensor here, you're gonna have to take this off because this does get installed into one of your pusher pipes, which I'll show you later, so don't discard this sensor. All right, we are going by the really nice instruction manual that they did provide. So for me, I have to do this anyway because I'm gonna take this turbo out. So the next step is to remove this clamp and then also get this charge pipe off so that we can get that turbo out. But for me, they're 11 millimeters. I'm just undoing this one and the one closest to the turbo there. You can see it loosened up. And now I'm gonna grab this with both hands and twist it to like break it loose, and then shimmy it out. All right, allowed. There we go, I can get a little bite on it now. Okay. All right, so we got the piece out, and you might need to break out a hammer or a flathead or just whatever you got to get these off, because sometimes the clamps want to stick tighter than a duck's butt. So you save that clamp because that clamp is reused for the hot pipe from this turbo to the big turbo. You got the sensor there on your turbo. I'm going ahead and unclip that, and I'm going to take the oil drain off and then just push that to the side. I'll take one of my rubber gloves and just like pull down over the top of it so nothing falls down in the oil pan. And then I'm going to I usually have to use a box end wrench on the bottom of this and just a crescent or something on the top to hold this bottom one tight to get that off. And then I will take some shop towel or something and put down in that hole, and then put another glove over that oil feed tube. And let me start that and I'll be back. Okay, let me show you something real quick. If you don't have it, you really should get it. So the bolts for the manifold and the bolts for the mate between the turbo and the manifold love to back out. I had to replace the T4 gasket there twice before I installed this hardware that prevents those nuts and bolts from backing out. Anyway, you can find them on the internet. It's locking nuts and bolts for 5.9 Cummins. It's not that hard of a Google search. But anyway, so I just wanted to point that out. Now I need to cover that up, that oil feed, and I'm gonna start getting those that locking hardware off and get those nuts off, and I'll be right back. All right, so I got the 4 bolts cracked loose. All right, so this is the bad boy that came off the truck. This is the modified stock HE351. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be swapping out my wastegate and putting this turnbuckle on here so that I don't have to remove the wastegate to tighten or loosen it, because this can just stay on there, and then you can just tighten or loosen this with a wrench. So that's a cool little upgrade. I'll be putting the sensor back in the turbo. Got to put the studs back in here. Yeah, let me get all that done and I'll be back. All right, so new turbo is in the truck. I swapped out the sensor into this turbo. I swapped out this oil feed piece right here, because that is independent of this, and that you need that to go in your turbo to make this go on your turbo. Okay, I went ahead and installed this silencer ring. There's stuff all over the internet. It just makes your turbo loud. It doesn't really hurt it in any way by it being there. It just quiets it down. As you can see back there, the wastegate is on. The wastegate tube is all tightened, and the sensor's in. I'm about to connect the sensor. But what I'm going to do now is this fleece flexible oil drain is about to get installed on that new turbo, because we all hate this metal piece of junk. All right, I'll be back. Okay. It's really just as simple as just pulling this thing out. It's not held in by anything except those O-rings right there. So I went ahead and stuck the new one in the hole there. And as you can see, look at that. I don't have to fight this thing. That's worth $100 to me right there. This should pick up roughly where it would be if you didn't change out your turbo. So now we're finally getting to the compound installation. Well, we are on page 2. So we did that, changed out the turbo, took that out. That's good. So now what we're going to be doing, it looks like, is we're going to be cutting the exhaust pipe. And there's the instructions right here for you. Okay, and it says that for your mechanical wastegate, you want to set the pressure to 25 PSI. I did that before I put it on the truck. So I can tell you how to do it real quick, okay? All right, I'm going to show you how to do this with the turbo off the truck. It's doable with the turbo on the truck. It just sucks, okay? So if you were looking through the fender well, you'd be looking at your turbo much like this. So you would have to get underneath of it to this vacuum hose that goes right here, okay? You want to pull it off that. That's where your sensor is. Okay, you want to pull that off there. Stick your stick a shop air in here with a regulator set at 25 PSI. Let it air up, okay? And then, as it hits 25 PSI, it's gonna push this arm out, which opens the wastegate, okay? So you want it set at 25 PSI per the instructions from Pusher Intakes. And they say it should get you close to whatever your final adjustments are according to your tuner. So what you do is like there's a C-clip here. You pop that off, and tighten or loosen this to where when this is seeing 25 PSI, it's barely starting to push open. It's barely starting to push this plunger down. So, and then once you get that adjusted, let's just pretend that is 25 PSI. And then stick it on, put your C-clip on, tighten your jam nut, put your vacuum line back on, and you're done. And that's basically all there is for setting that 25 PSI. All right, I'll be back. Okay, and then also they have a little suggestion here. This is more for stock turbos, but if you're making more than 400 rear wheel horsepower, they want you to, where I was showing you in that last clip where the wastegate opens, there's a little hole there, and they want you to get something, whatever you need or whatever you get your hands on, and port that out to about 1 inch. On the factory charger to 1 inch, plus or minus 0.08 inches. All right. But so this is where we are. All right. Okay, so we're gonna get under the passenger side of the truck, find your exhaust pipe, transmission cross member, 2 inches in front of the cross member. I'm doing about 3 inches because I'm just cautious, and you can always cut more off. It's a whole lot harder to add the pipe back. So I already started it with my angle grinder with a cutting wheel on it. And then I've got my Sawzall that I will finish it off with. So let me buzz that and I will be right back. All right, so we got the pipe cut in front of the transmission cross member there. While I'm down here, I'm gonna go ahead and point this out to you. This is your transmission dipstick. I have an automatic, so I have to change this out. And well, dirt's bad, y'all. You don't want dirt in your transmission. So get down here with a pick, get behind it, get a water bottle, and spray it, and try to get it as clean as possible. Okay, we're on the next step here. We're gonna be, if you follow the dipstick down, there's right there where you can see my finger pointing at the bell housing and that transmission dipstick. There's a bolt there. I believe it's a 14 millimeter. You need to loosen up so you can get this pulled out. And then you want some kind of a pan or something under there to catch transmission fluid, because the transmission fluid should be level with that hole over there. And if you got a jack handy, try to jack up the passenger side of the vehicle so the transmission is more tilted and all the fluid goes to the driver's side. And then you hopefully won't lose any fluid and you don't have to refill it. But there's that bolt I was talking about. I'm gonna get a 14, take that off and rip that baby out. I'll be back. All right, so don't forget this, like I did. When you swap out the new dipstick, you want to get this rubber gasket and put it on the new dipstick, or else you're gonna drip transmission fluid all over the damn ground like I did. So learn from my mistakes. I'll be back. Oh, buddy. This damn transmission dipstick may be a little easier for you, but it was a pain in the ass. Anyway, so that's in there. It's tightened down, and as you can see, we're down there and we're not leaking. Another little tip you could do is you could take some gray RTV and you can put on that to helpfully have like a second layer. That's how it was whenever I pulled this off. There was a little bit of RTV somebody had used previously. But all right, let's get to the next step. I'll be back. Okay, so now we need to start the bracket that holds the turbo. Okay, so we're gonna take out this top bolt right there, which is a 15 millimeter. And then the negative battery cable right there, which is an 18. And then we're going to utilize that second hole right above there. And that's where that bracket's going to mount there, there, and there. You're going to put a short spacer on that side and long spacers on that side. And once you put it in the bottom, obviously you're going to reconnect your negative to the block there. So let me get that one out and let me get that negative off. I need to spray some brake cleaner or something in there to get the threads cleaned out, and then we can put the bracket in. All right, so we got the mount in there. Like I said, short spacer on the left side, long spacers on the right side. So what you're going to do is, as you tighten this, you're going to move this bracket back and forth, and you want to tighten the 2 tapered bolts. Okay, and once those are already all the way tightened down, then that's where your mount is supposed to be. Then you will tighten down the M12, and once that one's tight and snug, one at a time, you will take the tapered bolts out and put in the other M12s that were supplied for it. So it'll be 3 M12s when it's all said and done. And also, on the bottom one, you'll reconnect your battery negative that goes to the block. So I'm going to start tightening these and wiggling this, and I will be back. All right, so that's your oil drain for the Borg Warner. I'm backing up, backing up, backing up. I used a long ass flathead and a hammer. I put the flathead. All right, I put the flathead at the very bottom of it, like on the edge of that freeze plug, and tapped it down with the hammer real gently. And as you can see, it's sitting there. Now I'm going to get my pair of needle nose pliers and I'm going to pull that out, and I'll be right back. All right, Now you want to stick this down in there. I'll put a little WD on those O-rings there. So I am going to reach down in there and stick it in. I'll be back. All right, we're back. And as you can see here, I got that aluminum piece in, and I got the worm drive clamp with the oil drain ran behind the bracket and back up to connect to the bottom of that bracket. All the worm drive clamps are tight. Now we're putting this boot on here, and we're only going to tighten the back side 4-inch clamp that goes on there. All right, so for the next step is you want to bend this and this back away because exhaust from the Borg Warner go down through here. Also, back here, this is a heater hose. Okay, mine's different than yours probably because this isn't stock. I have this fleece coolant bypass. It brings coolant from the rear of the engine to the front where the thermostat housing is to prevent the rear cylinder from getting too hot. But on the stock truck, there'd be a metal line there, and it could possibly be connected to the block here via a bolt. All right, so I've already bent my lines. I might bend them a little more. We'll see. And I'm going to move on to the next step. I'll be back. All right, so now we're messing with the Borg Warner. And what we want to do is these two studs right here, you want to put Loctite on them, and then they go in the bottom of the turbo there, because that's where it sits down on that mount there. And those two nuts obviously go on the underneath to hold this to that mount. And also we want to put some Teflon tape on that oil feed there and tighten it down into there. So let me do that and I will be right back. All right, I went ahead and took the housing off so that whenever I go to install this in a second, I can get to everything a little bit easier. But I went ahead and installed the feed with the tape and the studs for the oil drain. So what you're going to do is you want to use a little bit of RTV on the gasket and sit that on there so it doesn't like flop off. And then there's an O-ring that we put in the top of the mount. See that O-ring groove right there? All right, so I'm gonna be pulling that. I'm gonna put the O-ring in there and that other gasket, and I will be right back. Okay, for me to get those mounting bolts on the bottom of the turbo to the pedestal there, I found it easier to undo that oil drain, pull it down, then tighten it up. And then after I get everything figured out, then I'll situate the worm drive clamp to where it's not in the way of all this other crap on the left and the right. All right, let's get to the next step. All right, so I went ahead and did this to mock it up to see how close this was. But as per the instructions, you're gonna be installing this pipe first. With the 5-inch V-band clamp right there. And you're going to need to swing it all the way close to the transmission. You'll adjust it later. All right. And then you'll be installing the intermediary hot pipe here with the V-band clamp that you had. You just reuse that one. Mine just happens to be new because I had an extra one, so I wanted it to be all shiny. All right. So I believe next what we're going to do is we're going to put the T6 gasket in here, and then the 3/8-inch stainless bolts and lock washers will be going on here. All right, we got the gasket and the hardware in there. Everything else is still loose, so you can move it around and get your play so you can make sure everything fits correctly. All right, so now we're on this step here. I'm going to show you the clearance that I have right after I talk about this. But so this is going to be our torque sequence to tighten everything down, and then we'll be moving forward to, you know, hopefully wrap this thing up here pretty soon. So let me walk over and I'll show you. All right, so We got everything tight. I did leave the V-band for the downpipe loose because the next step is actually connecting the medium pipe between your factory, if you still have factory, or your 5-inch, and this downpipe here. As you can see, my AC line has about a 1/2 inch, let me zoom in. About a 1/2 inch clearance back there, and plenty of clearance on this side right here. There we go, on that pipe there. All right, so yeah, let's get that intermediary pipe in, and then we'll be putting the housing on here and connecting the pipe from here to the stock turbo. Let's get it. All right, so this here pipe that goes from your stock turbo's air inlet to the BorgWarner's air outlet, it's going to have this little sensor location here so you can run a boost gauge in between. If you're not running a boost gauge, you need to use thread sealant and put that in so that this doesn't give you a boost leak. All right, I'll be back. Okay, so we got our clamp on there, and don't forget your O-ring right there. As I showed before, I plugged that yesterday. I've just been piddling along at this. Now I'm gonna start trying to get this shoved in. I got a bottle of spray water over here to shove it into that boot on the stock turbocharger down there and try to connect it to the that housing there of the BorgWarner, and I'll be back. All right, so everything else, according to the torque sequence, is all done. Now I'm getting in this final pipe right here, and then I'm just going to finish up the exhaust pipe and tighten that up, and then tighten the clamp for that exhaust down pipe. But nearing the end. We are nearing the end. All right, so we're gonna take out the bolt for the alternator here. It's 15 millimeter. You're gonna thread in the new one. It's longer with a nut on the end to support this intake right here. Here's the plug for my intake air temperature sensor. You can see it right there. It's on the other side. Don't forget to plug that in. I'm gonna tighten that up, get that back on there. I'm gonna put the oil, not the oil, damn it, the air filter on. The other worm drive clamp, tighten that up, and pretty close to being done, y'all. Don't forget your sock for your air filter. Don't forget the sock for your air filter. I went ahead and I got that clamp for the downpipe tightened up. Let's go underneath. Ugh. This hell getting old, I tell you. Anyway, there we go. Connected. Everything's all good. If you remember earlier, I said I left this side a little bit longer. What I ended up doing is trimming a piece off of the pipe that was supplied to make it easier to get to the bolts so I can tighten them, instead of, like, if I had cut this back some more, these would have been set back a little bit more. And it was just easier to get my impact on it. Anyway. Okay. So, you don't have to do the 10 bar map sensor, but you're not going to be able to read over 37 pounds of boost if you don't. I don't know if you'll be running that or not on your setup or whatever you got going on, but for my setup, I will be installing a 10 bar map sensor. Let's flip you around, and it goes right there. Right there. And I also have the turbo blanket, but I'm going to run the truck and make sure nothing leaks before I put the turbo blanket on and before I reinstall the wheel well. I just want to make sure nothing's leaking and everything like that. But yeah, so it's just a couple of little star bits, real small ones. I don't know what size it is yet, but I'm gonna go ahead and switch that out now, and I will be back.